I'm Lisa Viele, and I'm Lizzie's mom, and Lizzie has cerebral palsy. When Lizzie was born, I felt lost. I felt like no one else had a child like Lizzie, and I felt like I needed to find some support. That's why the CP Family Network has created an online TV show just for you. It's a place for you to go and get questions answered, get ideas, and have discussions with other families and get support for your daily life. And I'm here with my friend Anita, who is Ryan's mother, and I would like to give you a little background on my story. When Lizzie was born, she was born at 40 weeks, and she was a very healthy 8-pound baby, 20 inches long, just as normal looking as you can have, until we received the diagnosis that she had cerebral palsy. And that's when my world stopped. It didn't end, but it stopped. I was devastated. I was given I almost felt like it was a death sentence. Like I had a limited amount of time to work with this child. I had no idea what to do. I had no idea with medicines, and it was very difficult. I had to grieve a lot of her milestones. For instance, Lizzie didn't walk until she was 7. So when you're supposed to walk at 1, I had to grieve that and say, she's not going to make this milestone. We're just going to have to wait for her to make it. And but it's very difficult if you don't have a support system or a friend going through the same thing. Your feelings of anger and feelings of that's not fair start to bubble up, and you feel validated because your support system says, yes, you should feel that way. That is how you should be feeling. And so just having a friend going through the same thing has helped me through these years. And this is my friend Anita, who would like to tell you a little bit about her story.
I have to say, Lisa has made me so many times feel like I am not crazy, that I'm not crazy. It's just nice to know. But Ryan's 11. He has cerebral palsy also. He was born a month early. I went into labor a month early, and his heart rate would nearly stop with every contraction. So they did an emergency C-section, medevaced him to a hospital about an hour and a half away. And there I was still in the hospital because I had complications as well. We got to the hospital, and they said the doctor wanted to talk to us on a Saturday. So we knew that was not good. So they talked to us and told us that he'd had a stroke. They had to wait for the bleed to stop before they could figure out how bad that stroke was. They did the MRI, and it was bad. But he has come so far. He's doing really well. And the hard thing about going into it for me was you don't know. They don't know what to tell you they're not going to be able to do. They just say, we'll help you figure it out as you go. So you don't ever know what you're facing. And it is definitely a godsend to have Lisa and others that are supportive and know exactly what you're going through.
It's interesting because you can get a manual on what to expect the toddler years and what to expect.
Yeah.
You don't get a manual on these kids. No. And you just learn every day. You just go day by day.
Yeah.
And with the help of others and friends and support, you can get through it.
I'm Anita, and this is my son Ryan. He is 11, and we're going to show you a little bit of what our daily routine looks like. Ryan has to be stretched every day to keep his legs from getting tight. So normally he has knee immobilizers on to keep his legs straight, but he gets the day off from that today. But the thing that helps us to be able to do physical therapy is that he does not mind this back rub, so he gets a back rub every day, and it helps to loosen him up. And I have to say, I'm not a medical professional. I'm just a mom. So if you want to massage your child, I do suggest that you talk to your child's therapist to find out. there's some things that you want to avoid with children. So you want to get someone who knows your child to be able to tell you exactly what to do. But for Ryan, what we do after talking with his physical therapist is that he's in a wheelchair all day, and so his muscles get tight, his neck gets tight from curling over so much. He has the starting signs of scoliosis, so we want to keep his back relaxed. So what we have started doing is we take it's coconut oil and Young Living peppermint oil, and it feels so good on his back. So we mix that in just because we don't want, peppermint oil can be really warm. So you want to make sure that it's not too much for the child. So we dilute it with coconut oil, and I just rub his back, and I especially the points that I get for him are right around his shoulder blades because he gets knots in there. So we just rub and loosen up. He has no knots today. So we rub his shoulder blades to make sure we get all the knots out, and especially around his neck. And I think that's his favorite part because he fights with his neck a lot. That just happens to be his thing. So we'll put the coconut up around his neck. He's grinning, and rub his neck and help his neck to relax. And we usually do this close to bedtime, right before bath time and then bedtime, so that he relaxes and he goes to sleep and he sleeps well. It's a lot of work for children with cerebral palsy. They work 10 times harder than the rest of us, so all of those muscles get so tight. When you talk to your physical therapist, ask them where they're finding the knots, and that's how we found out. She showed me, she said if I run my finger down where his shoulder blade was, actually he does have one right there, when you run your finger across those muscles, those trigger points, you'll find it, and when you find that knot, it's letting go pretty good. I just hold and push down. As long as he doesn't fight me, then I know I'm not pushing too hard. But if your child doesn't like it, they're going to let you know, and it's their body, and just listen to what the child, I don't know, I can't see that face. He doesn't like that knot. So, but yeah, you just go along some of those tight spots. Look at your child when they're sitting in the chair, see where they're curving, see where they're getting those postures that maybe aren't so good, and you're probably going to find some knots there. I find them in his shoulders. Yeah. But mostly I don't feel knots in his neck, I just feel tightness in his neck. And the more you do this, the more you're going to know your child's body, you're going to know their reaction. And you'll get better and better at it. But he loves it. We always give him a back rub every day, and he sleeps better at night. If I miss a day, he will wake up more likely in the middle of the night just because he hasn't had a chance for those muscles to relax and settle down. But honestly, it has made my life easy. It sounds like I know in the middle of everything that you have going on that this is just one more thing to do, but it's not. It is one of those things that you're all going to sleep better at night. It gives you something fun to do with your child that's not work. So much of their stuff is work. And I think he is telling me he's ready to roll over. Are you done? So that is what we do with him. Again, get your physical therapist to show you how to do it and let them watch you doing that on their stomach as well, to make sure that we're doing it the way we should. But that's what we do for him, and he is a little excited now. He's all rested. His muscles are ready to go and play some more.
Hello, Dr. Baumgartner. Thank you for joining Cerebral Palsy Family Network TV.
Hi, Lisa, and thanks for having me.
There are 800,000 people in the U.S. living with cerebral palsy. It is the most common movement disorder in children, yet research for a cure is sadly lacking. Tell us about your field of study and how long you've been involved in this type of research.
What I'm working on is therapies designed to repair nervous system injury. So when I was in medical school, they told us that you were born with every neuron you'd ever have, and that the ability for the brain to repair itself was pretty limited, so that when you were treating patients that had injuries to the brain, you pretty much had to just deal with what had happened and try and support them through. And maybe over the past 10 or 12 years, there have been a stream of publications that have suggested that maybe repair could be possible, and that got us excited when I was in Houston. And we started doing some stem cell trials for traumatic brain injury in Houston, and since I've moved here, we've extended that to involve kids with hearing loss and also kids with stroke, which is a pretty significant subset of the cerebral palsy population.
What are cord blood stem cells? And where do they come from?
They're considered adult stem cells. So any stem cell population that is collected from an individual after they're born is no longer considered fetal or embryonic, because to be fetal or embryonic, you have to still be in utero. There's a lot of ethical issues that bother a lot of people about using embryonic and fetal stem cells. And so we didn't want to wade into that. And we also wanted something with an established safety profile. And truthfully, right now, there isn't a really good safety profile for either embryonically or fetally derived stem cell populations. And the adult stem cells have a more limited repertoire in terms of what they can do. And that pluripotency is kind of a double-edged sword. So sometimes you can get them to go where you want them to go in animals and turn into what you want them to turn into. But sometimes they have a vote and decide they're going to turn into something that you'd really rather not deal with. When you put these cells in, they're in there for good and they can last a long time. And so you'd like to have some confidence that you're not going to create a problem. And the nice thing about cord blood and bone marrow-derived stem cells is we have that track record based on what's been done in the cancer world, and we're confident that they're not going to create problems for us.
What are the possible uses for children with CP?
It depends a little bit on why you have cerebral palsy, but usually it's some kind of perinatal central nervous system insult that creates damage to the brain or the spinal cord. And the idea behind this treatment, as we're using it, is that you enable some degree of repair to occur by changing the immune environment in the central nervous system space. So it looks like, under normal circumstances, the immune response to the injury of cerebral palsy, which can be very long-lasting, is suppressive in terms of repair. And that when you give cord blood or bone marrow mononuclear fraction, we think we're changing the immune system in the nervous system in a way that allows for reparative processes to take place. So maybe we can make things a little bit better for these kids.
You're at the Florida Hospital for Children. Can you tell us what's going on with your clinical trials?
In the course of cerebral palsy, there's some time points where treatment is possible. Kids that have something called hypoxic ischemic encephalopathy, or HIE, experience a pretty generalized insult around the time of delivery, and you can figure out that they've had that around the time of delivery. And there's researchers that are looking into treating that insult in the very acute phase with cord blood. So Joanne Kurtzberg at Duke is doing that, where the current gold standard for management is something called cold cap, where they cool these babies, and then they're combining cold cap with cord blood that has never been frozen. They collect it at the time of delivery and treat the kids right away with the processed cord blood to see what's happening. She's also using multiple rounds of treatment in that trial, and we're all very anxious to see what happens with that. The next time point at which the FDA feels that you can call it treatment for cerebral palsy is around 2 years of age. So there's a multitude of different conditions that can create a cerebral palsy clinical picture, and most of them are difficult to figure out before 2 years of age, and you can't make the clinical diagnosis until 2 years of age. So then at that point, treatment is happening. So Dr. Cox in Houston is using both cord blood and bone marrow to treat cerebral palsy. There's a trial at Medical College of Georgia that's ongoing doing the same thing. And I wanted to focus on the in-between period, and I also wanted to focus on a slightly less global insult than the one you see in HIE.
You have children under a year involved. Why is that important?
So stroke is something you can identify in an MRI scan very early in the stage of a person's life, and so I'm not really calling it a cerebral palsy trial. We're calling it a perinatal arterial ischemic stroke trial, because that's exactly what we're looking at. And you can see kids with perinatal stroke present at 2 ages. One is in the first few weeks of life, when they often have seizures in the NICU, and then you see them at 10 to 12 months of age when they start showing the signs of cerebral palsy, usually weakness and spasticity on one side of the body. You can do an MRI scan, you can make that diagnosis, so you can initiate treatment in that patient population before the 2-year deadline. Our license is from 6 weeks up, and we're trying to see if the treatment that is initiated earlier than 2 years of age has any different effect than that that's started later. some people say it's 27 to 48 or 9% of kids with cerebral palsy actually have stroke as their underlying pathology. So it's a pretty significant subset of the CP population.
Physical therapists, occupational therapists, speech therapists, they all deserve something nice when their birthday comes around or Christmas time. So I'd like to show you a fun gift that you can make for them and something that they will be able to use for a long time. I'm going to show you how to make a placemat bag. And so here are the supplies that you'll need. You'll need two placemats that match in size. You need some hot glue, a hot glue gun, some string for your handles. You'll need a measuring tape to measure out your string or your rope for the handles. And you will need some Velcro that you can put, these are sticky kind that you can just stick right on for closures of the bag. And just some fun embellishments or some fun stickers or some fun something to put on your bag. It can be letter appliques to make it personal. Those are always fun, and that really means a lot that you've personalized it. Okay, so this is a bag that I've done, and I'm gonna put this to the side. So let's start with our placemat, and I'm just gonna show you the tablet size placemat bag. All you do is you fold it, okay? And what I like to do is I like to give it a crease so I know where the edge is there. And I need to make sure that all the sides match, and then I can start my gluing. Be careful because the glue is very hot and it can burn you. So I start at the bottom with the glue, make sure everything's out of the way, and I get as close to the edge as I can. And I glue just a little bit at a time, and I hold it for just a moment, and it's pretty permanent after 10 seconds. Again, be careful, the glue is very hot and it can squeeze out from that crease. So if you're having a child help you, just be very, very careful. I don't glue all the way to the top. I give myself a little bit of room. Because sometimes you can get a zipper and you can hot glue a zipper in there. And it does the same thing. A zipper will hold it and you can use it just like a regular zipper would. All right, so this side is done. And I'm just gonna leave that to dry. And then I'm gonna go over to this side, okay? Make sure everything's even on this side. Then I'll start the gluing and just make sure that's even. Not gonna be perfect, but it's the thought that counts. Okay, when you measure your rope for your handles, make sure that you have it long enough so that when you put it through the holes, you can tie the knot and you still have enough give for the handle, okay? So I'm gonna do, right there, I'm gonna do 15 inches, okay? Okay. So what I'll do is I'll measure where I want my handles. So I'm gonna come down, I'm gonna mark my bag. I'm gonna come down about an inch, but first I'm going to measure across so I can get these evenly. So this is 14 inches across, okay? I'm gonna come to the center, which is the 7 is the center, okay? And then I'm gonna come out about 2 inches a piece. Okay, so I'm gonna go at the 5-inch mark and the 9-inch mark, okay? And that's where my handle holes will be, okay? And we're gonna do the same thing on the other side as well, okay? And to make the holes, you can get creative and you can use a hole punch, you can use a knife. I'm gonna use my scissors. And all I do is I just kind of put it, I fold it a little bit and then I just snip it. So I don't snip too much of it, but it makes a hole. You want the knot to be on the inside. So what I do is I just kind of manipulate the hole a little bit so I can put the rope through, the string through. Okay, this may take a minute or two to get in because it can be a little tough. All right, so it's in, and so now we just need to make the knots. Okay, and those are secured, okay? And there's the handle, and the handle looks very similar to this one, okay? Okay. We want everybody to know that they're appreciated that work with our children. I mean, we could get them a gift card and we could get them cash. But I like to give them things that they know that I put my thought into and just something special for them. And now you can put what you want in there as a gift. And I'm putting some candles in. Who doesn't like a smelly candle? Voila. And there's your bag for your teacher or your occupational therapist or anybody that you want to give a special gift to. I know firsthand what it's like to have a normal pregnancy but end up with a child with cerebral palsy. Ours was a case of medical malpractice due to doctor error. Unfortunately, this is still happening.
At about 36 weeks gestation, we started having problems. I would go in for the stress test and they would send me over to the hospital saying that they needed to deliver the baby or do more testing and monitoring of the baby. On the last one, when I went in for the stress test, Jordan was not moving at all. I laid there for 8 hours before they actually delivered the baby. And the only reason why they delivered him at that point was because his heart stopped beating. The head doctor said, we're going to the emergency room, and everybody just started running down the hall. And I just feel like if they had come by to see me 15 minutes, just peek your head in the door. If he had just peeked his head in the door, he would have known something is wrong with this mother. You need to go ahead and deliver that baby. So that's hard to look at my son every day and know that 15 minutes would have saved his life. When I woke up, the doctor came in and apologized to me. When I saw Jordan in the hospital with all those tubes in him and the bruise on his chest, I was angry. And I knew something was wrong, especially after he told me, the doctor said that he cut my uterus off at the bottom. That just didn't sound right to me. So I was immediately searching for someone to help me with the case. I don't remember the name of the lawyer in Memphis that we found, but I did meet with her once in her office. She set up another meeting to talk to me about the case again. And when she came into her office and she said, now tell me who you are. So that was a no for me. I did some more research. We found a lawyer in Chicago. They flew down to Memphis and they told me that they would take the case, and they showed me where they had won millions of dollars for other cases similar to mine. But about a month, maybe 2 months later, they sent me a letter saying that they were not going to take my case and I needed to stop looking. No, I felt like I had a case. I knew that Jordan was acting the same way as far as when they took the pictures of my stomach. He was moving around. There was nothing wrong with him. And I asked at 36 weeks. I had Nivea at 36 weeks gestation. I had Jamal at 36 weeks gestation. I asked them to deliver my child at 36 weeks, and they wouldn't do it. I felt like what they call Braxton Hicks. I was in labor. And when you're in labor for too long, it puts stress on the child. And I believe that if they had delivered him like I asked, he would have been fine. He would have been normal, just like my other children. And so I just kept going. You know, I didn't let that stop me. The fact that they said I didn't have a case, I just didn't stop. I contacted Janet Suggs, like I said, when Jordan was born, the first year. They're very professional. They always coach me and tell me what's going to happen. And I really needed that because I had no idea. And I was very depressed, kind of blaming myself for some of the things that was going on with Jordan. Mr. Janet is very in control. I like him because he knows how to make people be quiet. And I feel that having him on the team and the rest of the people around him, they all make you want to stand up, really. They made me want to be better and really believe in myself in the case more just by being in their presence. When he put the evidence on that that showed the proof that they made a lot of mistakes that led to Jordan's cerebral palsy. I think the jury gave us this verdict because Jordan is going to need a lot more than most people can even think of in the future. Even when I'm gone, hopefully I'm going to live a long time and be able to take care of him. But when you really can't put a price on it. They actually had economists and financial planners and everything who actually sat down and said, okay, he's going to need this much for this and this much for that. And they put it all together and said, okay, $33 million is what we're going to award her. Jordan's money is in a trust. Whatever we need, we're able to go to a financial planner and say, Jordan needs this, or one of the biggest things is a home where he could move around. At the home where we were living, he couldn't move around. There was not enough room in the home for him to even open the walker up and move. We had to take him outside. But in this house, he can move all over the house with the walker, the wheelchair. He can crawl around, whatever he wants to do. He can do it. If it were not for the settlement, I wouldn't be able to give Jordan the things that he needs. Now he can get extra therapy, the physical therapy. I can do everything I need to do. I can take him to the therapy, and I don't have to have that stress of worrying about if I'm going to get fired or not from my job. I just want him to be as independent as possible and to be able to do the things that his brothers and sisters do. I can see that he loves them a lot and he wants to do what they do. He wants to play basketball. He played basketball at Shrine. He wants to walk and he wants to do the things that they do. So I want to see him do as much as he possibly can.
Welcome back. I'm Lisa.
And I'm Anita.
And today we're going to talk about toys that can be adapted for your child. Anita, can you tell us why it's important to adapt a toy for, say, Ryan?
Sure. Now he used to like toys like this that are easy to activate and you can hit the buttons. But he's very much a boy, and he loves cars. He loves playing with cars and Buzz Lightyear. The only problem is that he doesn't have the fine motor skills to be able to hit and push these buttons. So there is a way. There is a way that you can
Maybe not that button next time.
not that button. But there's a way that you can adapt these toys so that it can be connected to a large switch, and all he has to do is hit that one switch, and then it makes it possible for him to play with cars that are remote controlled, Buzz Lightyear, racetracks. So it just opens up a whole new world, and we have some friends that are going to teach us how to adapt those toys.
Excellent.
Okay, I want to talk to you about some of the best options for toys to adapt. This toy would be one that I would probably avoid just because when you hit the button, the tires spin and it goes across the floor. So if it's attached to this wire, the wire is either going to get caught up in the tire or it's going to pull the button away from the child. So I would avoid something like this. And for the same reason with the train tracks, I would avoid those as well, unless it attaches to the track itself. But if it attaches to the train, that wire is going to get in the way as it begins to move around the track. Another one that I would avoid would be something like this robot that has lots of functions to it. You're going to need a button for every function. So it's just not going to be very accommodating. I would avoid this one. Some of the toys that are a good idea would be something like this Hulk. As the child pushes the stomach, Hulk makes noise. And as you can see from the back, it has a place for 5 screws. So it's not going to, you know, if you see lots of screws, it's probably going to fall apart as you take all of those out. But this just has 5 little ones, so it'll be easy for us to open up that battery and be able to replace the button on his belly with this button for Ryan to be able to play with him. Another toy, and it's not necessarily a toy, but it's something that I think could really accommodate the child to be able to bring them in. For children with cerebral palsy, a lot of them have visual impairments. So to be able to have a flashlight that you can aim at a track that will draw their vision to what you're playing, flashcards, train track, a game. You could even play red light, green light and let your child be the one calling it, and as the child turns the light on, the kids stop, but as he turns it off, they can go. So this would be very helpful, and my brother tells me it's easy, very easy to adapt the flashlights because they are so simple. So, and he is the one that has shown me how to do all this, so he knows what he's talking about. Another one that would be a good idea would be something like this bubble machine. As you can see, there's a button there in the bottom, and all I'll have to do is take that bottom piece off and be able to run a wire out that's going to then connect to this button. And then Patricio is going to be able to hit that button and turn the bubbles on. It'll give him a good visual cue because those bubbles will come up and it's going to draw his attention to the toy. So it'll be a big motivator. A lot of times with our children, finding a motivator is difficult because the toys get so babyish as they get more complicated and they can't use the more complicated toys. Another one that would be a good fit would be something like this doll. Originally we started out with a doll that was the hard plastic and the button was in her hand, but after I got home I realized I could not tell, I didn't see a place to unscrew it and be able to get to the button without tearing the doll up. So took that back and found this one that's kind of the soft material, and as she pushes the belly then the doll would talk. But in the back there is Velcro, so all I'm going to have to do is just open up that Velcro, be able to get to the battery and be able to run a wire from that battery that will connect to this switch, and then all she's going to have to do is hit that switch to be able to get the doll to talk. So these are some of the good options, and I think you're going to find lots of things that you can do to help your child find something they're going to be motivated by.
For more resources for families affected by CP, sign up for our newsletter at cpfamilynetwork.org, and don't forget to like us on Facebook.